Recovery Show. We air every Friday at noon, and we're glad you can make it. Today's episode is going to interview a couple they're both in recovery, and they met in recovery and have been doing so much to help other people now in their recovery, and they just have a really passionate story, and so I'm excited to have them here. I was talking to them before the show about what a difference it is when somebody goes from wherever they're at, however much of a bottom that they've had, whatever they've experienced, and they get recovery, like they heal, they stop using the drugs, the alcohol, they start learning new tools, and they stop acting out on old behaviors, and yeah, that's wonderful, and what an amazing life. What an amazing life to learn how to live life on life's terms. But the ones, in my opinion, who do the deepest dives and who reach down to the bottom of themselves and want to help other people, those are the ones that come the most alive. And you can always see that, like the light's just a little bit brighter on the ones that are in service and wanting to be helpful. There's a sickness that pervades society, and it's not even just with the addict or the alcoholic. It is what's in it for me. That whole idea of getting, not getting, the attachments to things being a certain way, and the disappointments, the resentments, the using people, the worshiping things, and our society, especially on this side of the globe, is so focused on that. What do you have? What did you accomplish? What do you look like? And for the addict or the alcoholic, it could be a grave way of thinking, because when we're uncomfortable in our own skin, we want to do something to make ourselves feel better. And if we think we're not enough or we don't have enough, it for some reason aligns with our core levels of security, like real security. Our wires get that off. So when we are so infused with the power that we've connected to, and we heal, and we use that power to intuitively know who to help, who to talk to, where to go, like, man, our recovery gets just amped up. It goes on steroids. And the power of a higher power in our lives, if you choose to call it God, that we experience, the God shots, the feeling of living life on purpose now, not just being free of alcohol and drugs and maybe some of the conditions that we found ourselves in, or the situations because of bad programming and the substances that we ingested, but being able to be free and use that freedom to free others is, to me, like, I just got the chills. It is the reason for life, that we are not these little separate people that we're just like walking around trying to, get whatever we can get before we die. It's just, there's a deep programming within our society to come from that, what's in it for me, from the outside in, that it takes a lot of work, in my opinion, to change that, to come from gratitude, to come from wanting to be truly helpful. It takes a lot, and that's why in a lot of the different methods for healing from addiction, there is this notion that, when you are struggling, one of the things when all else fails is to get out of yourself and focus on bringing the light to somebody else. And then when you do that, you realize you have it, like you have the light already. Our worst enemy is between our ears. And so today I'm really excited to interview a couple I actually heard partly of them from other people, because that's the results of somebody's behavior when they're doing something to help other people. We had Kyle on an episode maybe like a couple months ago, and he talked about how key their participation in his life was for him, to have him heal. And if you watch that episode, you know how much he went through, and he's just a walking miracle, which it's beautiful to see, and he's on fire now too. And so I'm joined here today with Dee and Dwight Hanzy. They actually have 3 houses for men. They own the Hanzy House Sober Living. And interestingly enough, Dee has, what did you say? You had 18 years sober, right?
Yes.
right? And he has 3 years sober. And so what's interesting is that in the past 3 years, they've known each other longer than that, but in the past 3 years, all this with the house, I mean, it's just all this with the two of them, even more so diving in and pouring recovery, pouring inspiration, pouring assistance, pouring solution into people who are coming out of jails, or veterans, or people who have habitually now believed that they don't have options, that they don't have solutions. And so that's just so powerful. Like a whole episode can be on that alone, but we're going to incorporate it into this episode. But what an amazing thing. She also works in social services and behavioral health. She's an author. She's written a book. It's at the Recovery Store. And she's a speaker. And so they've been together for 6 years. They've been married for 4 years. And they met in recovery. And so we're going to dive into the story about them. We're going to talk about what it was like before recovery, and then what happened, and where we're at today, and why we're so on fire, and how it works for you guys to be in a relationship with each other and be married. So let's start off with you. If you could just tell us a little bit about what it was like before.
Well, Lisa, I'm on the spot now, but thank you for having us.
Welcome.
Yes, so 18 years ago was a totally different moon, sun, sky, totally different. And I had 3 little kids at that time, and I did have subtle moments of clarity, between this arrest, that arrest, triage, getting fingerprinted, booked in, and then getting kicked out to the street again. I almost think like, did that really happen? But I know that it did. I remember being in Clark County Detention Center one of my times that I visited, and they would let us out sometimes, and I could hear the downtown traffic. And we could smell the restaurant food. And there was always those, they were dreams. We wanted them to be real, but they were never going to be real. But it was always, when I get out of here, I'm going to get a job, and I'm going to go eat at that buffet. Just the tiniest little dream ever. And I remember that, but I don't even want to say I was broken all the way to pieces, but there was definitely some broken parts in me.
Yeah.
Definitely some broken parts in me. And, and then when you're in your addiction, you get introduced to somebody else who's in their addiction, and you're almost never mismatched.
Right.
So, my children's father was very abusive and just your regular, average, run-of-the-mill, garden variety drug addict, just like me. And the two of us together became Hiroshima. It was terrible. And 3 children and a lifetime of what seems like nightmares, I'm sure.
So what was your childhood like that led you to that place where you found yourself married to somebody who was also a drug addict with 3 little kids and going in and out of jail?
Isn't that something? My dad was a military man, a very respected Navy guy.
Okay.
And he was a big, huge Navy guy, right? He meets my mom in the Philippines, this little tiny Filipino lady, and I'm born in the Philippines.
Okay.
And then I have a brother who's born in the Philippines, and then we moved to the United States. And then, of course, Dad is on his tour. So we're here, there, and everywhere. We lived in Japan, just about every naval installation in the United States. My dad did his time, 3 years at a time. So I learned, not to get too connected because we're going to be leaving soon.
Right.
And that does something, too.
It does.
An adolescent, after all these years, I've studied why anxiety occurs. And I didn't know that. But having to pack up and leave, and it's like full on pack your whole house and not just move down the street, but like move to a whole nother country or a whole nother state. It was something I didn't know was broken in me. So did we eat dinner every night at 5 o'clock? And did my mom take care of the kids and wash the dishes? And was my dad, the alpha male of the house? And absolutely all those things that seemingly were normal. It's just that, because I have this thing in my brain that doesn't see things the way that other people might. That's my perception.
Yeah, but all it takes is a moment where you have your friends and you live a certain way and you feel a certain sense of like normalcy, and then you got to move.
Yeah.
All it takes is the pain and then the decision you make as a child to, I'm not going to ever suffer like this again. So how do I prepare myself? And then each time becoming a little bit stricter in the programming. It's just a little kink in the programming of we grow up with. And the studies have shown that when a child grows up in a militaristic household that bounces around, that instability is one of the traumas that creates like the adult children scenario where they grow up feeling like they're afraid of abandonment, and there's an element of don't talk, don't trust, don't feel.
And there's also those little nuances of recreating myself all the time. So I'm always not really myself. And if the last place I was at didn't really fare well, then I could put a little bit more on it the next place I went. So I caught myself doing that quite often, and that really is what I did in my adulthood. I was able to, like a chameleon, whatever crowd I was with, I became that. And it also gave me like my very first inclination of a woman's relationship with a man. And it was askewed. Yeah. It wasn't even what I thought. And I had some very terrible reservations about my parents that were not true. But that's just what I thought. Yeah. So I would carry that with me, and then I would try to replicate that in every relationship that I ever had. My children's father is someone who I knew for a very long time. And it was one bad person getting with another bad person, and that's the math
one
right
sick
there.
Person
right.
With another
exactly.
Sick person.
A sick person with another sick person, and we're not even trying to find our way out of this. Right. We're just trying for bad things not to happen to us all the time.
I just feel like it's so important to acknowledge that, because the sickness is the thinking. The sickness is, there are genetic components, especially, with family addiction, but the sickness is the programming. It is, because all I needed to do was make a decision about, I don't want to ever feel that again. Okay, I need to be this with these people. I went through something similar because I had a different school, and I went to Newark Military Academy for a little bit, and I could totally recreate myself there. Right. And I had a blast because nobody knew who I was back at home, and just that idea, like, who do I need to be okay? Right. Yeah.
I totally can relate to that. We're in alignment there for sure.
So what happened to make you finally get to a place that I can't do this anymore, I need help?
Yeah, that was not my choice. That was the choice of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department.
And what did you do? Did you do alcohol? Did you do drugs? Did you do everything?
Meth is my drug of choice.
Okay.
And obviously anything with that, but definitely when I was introduced to that, and it was a segue from cocaine. Okay. And that's just where I landed. And I landed, just a little tiny bit, and then a lot of bit, and then a different way, and then another different way. And it just, talk about the progression that they talk about, in substance use disorder. Yeah. But, so I go in front of a judge, and he's like, yeah, you're going to prison. I'm like, how did we get here? In my mind.
For what? What happened?
Or my original charge was robbery. Okay. And originally there was a kidnapping charge. And for the grace of God, I go in front of judge after that arrest, and the kidnapping charge is gone. And I don't even question that. I just think it would have been harder for me to come back if that would have been on there. I don't know what would have been in the future for that in my background. So God was like, I'll remove that for you, but this stays. And it was an underlying sentence of 1 year in prison, or 3 years on paper. And I just failed miserably the instant I walked out of that courtroom. And I had no intention.
Because wherever we go, our thinking goes.
Absolutely. Yeah. But again, my mind, I was so relieved. I was like, I escaped. I narrowly escaped death, Yeah. And then just went back out to what was happening. And in 2004, just life came crashing down, The children's father left, and he didn't come back, and that was just unheard of, and because he always came back, And
Excuse me.
I was with the 3 little kids. I call them the 3 little kids. I didn't even know them. I'm being honest about that, and that's probably not popular, but it's the truth, and that's what keeps me sober today. So I'm going to keep saying it. I knew they belonged to me, and I'm just grateful that no harm came to them while they were underneath my supervision. But yeah.
Well, because when we're numbing out and we're disconnected, love has nothing to do with it.
Oh, yeah. And again, just another reason for me to feel guilt and shame when I finally get sober. And I end up in front of the judge on a violation. And he's very meticulous with his notes. He just loved reading those last court minutes to me. And then something changed his mind, and he released me to treatment. The only treatment center that exists that allows moms to live in treatment with their kids, something I didn't even ask for. That's like a measurement of God.
Yeah.
That is something I didn't even ask, because I wouldn't have known to ask for that. Again, there was God making all the moves on my behalf when I don't even know that it's come. I don't even know. Listen, in today, I have things that I never even asked for because my mind was so finite, such finite thinking.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And he sends me to treatment, and I stay sober long enough for me to be afraid of getting loaded again.
Nice.
And I'm like, this is trickery. But
yeah.
But it worked on me, and it wasn't easy, and I didn't always do the right thing. But one thing is, I just did not get loaded again. And I might have thought about it a million times.
I have to say that the fear of losing my life has been one of the key things that's kept me sober for 24 years, because I feel like when I've had trauma come up to heal and the fecal matter hits the oscillating device and there's that old voice that comes out and wants to say, fuck it.
Yeah.
Well, sure, but, think through the drink. What then's going to happen?
Yeah.
And everything that makes my life my life. We have a new identity now. We're identified with all the things that are good for us and good for others, and we've tasted what that feeling that we've been chasing in the alcohol and the drugs for years. We felt the real thing. And once you feel the real thing, it's like you don't want to lose that.
Right.
If you really felt it, you don't want to lose it, and you could tell you have. So.
And metaphorically, it's like I've been wearing around layers of sweaters all my life, and with all the years that I get another year in this beautiful program of life, then I take another sweater off. Now I'm walking around just one T-shirt, and I'm feeling good, and I'm loving life, But did it come with a price? I believe that it did. It came with a price, and we paid that ticket at the door. So, but yeah, I'm my kids. I did the best I could, and none of them this day have ever been arrested, and they far outaged my beginning times with law enforcement. So I'm like, oh man, statistics say if they've reached 25, and then they, I read all that stuff. I just.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'd love to hear about your childhood a little bit, what got you into drugs and alcohol, or whatever your drug of choice was, and etc. So
yes, I'm Dwight Hanzy, owner of the Hanzy House Sober Living. I got to get that plug in. Yes, this is my beautiful wife. She is my life partner. She is my best friend. She is the most precious thing in my life. Okay. And I met her in recovery. But my childhood, let's go back. I came from a family, it was 3 boys, 3 girls. My father was a hard-working man, okay? My mother was a hard-working mother. And they provided for us the best they could, okay? And born in New Orleans, Louisiana, moved to Los Angeles, California when I was 5 years old, into projects, okay? But so people know I'm from Watts. Low East Side, like Wattsop, Central, Compton area.
I'm from New York. I can understand what you're saying, but maybe I don't understand, but I do.
You understand. So I came from that neighborhood. So now, even though my mother and father provided for us, I was attracted to the things in the hood, the players, the pimps, the people that had all the shiny, fancy cars and the jewelry and everything. And I was like, oh, I want to have a car like that. I want to roll like that. I want to be like that, you know. So that was my attraction to led to my addiction. Okay, so I wanted to be like those guys, okay? Even though my father is my hero, okay? And rest in peace. And but I gravitated toward that, and that led to crime, which is my first addiction. People have to go back to where it started. Crime is my first addiction.
The high of it.
Yes, the high of it, getting away with it. Okay, as a kid, stealing penny candy, get away with that. Ooh,
love that you shared that.
That's and then awesome. That's how my addiction started. Okay, and then eating the penny candy, and I got the candy rush. I got the I need more and more. Okay, that's where it started. Okay,
so crime was the gateway drug to food addiction. Oh my God, I can't.
I'm talking about it's just where it started, okay? People need to go back, okay? Where did it start, okay? And then so now I get to off into that lifestyle. So now I'm emulating the guys in my neighborhood. I want to, you know, so all the bad things to get money because I didn't want the clothes my mother didn't want to buy for me. No, I wanted the fly stuff. I wanted to look like a player, you know? So I got into that lifestyle. And then so now the lifestyle brings with it the trick, what I call the trick that's in the using drugs. Oh, okay, we players, you know, we up in the gambling shack all night, you know, we messing with prostitutes. So we take a blow to keep us up. We take a blow when the women come, and we take a blow when they leave, okay? And before you know it, that led to an addiction. At first it was like, the players
the
and
women or the drugs? Just kidding.
Both of them. The women and the drugs. And the lifestyle, okay? I'm addicted to fashion, clothes, cars, all that. That's an addiction, okay? And so I had to commit crime to pay for that addiction.
Love it.
And that got me 22 years in prison, okay? So that's where it all started, okay? Everybody from New York don't turn into criminals or use drugs. So, hey, it's the choices that we make.
Well, it's all spectrum, too. Like, some of us have done criminal things and not necessarily got caught.
Exactly.
Right. So there are things like that. But, yeah, I think it's a spectrum. I think that not everybody goes all the way to the extreme, maybe.
Right. And then, you know, like I said, I lived that lifestyle, and I was loving that lifestyle. I was, you know, hey, I wanted to be the Michael Jordan of the lifestyle. Okay, but then the normies, they can come home from work, take a drink, and, you know, whatever. Oh, let me turn it off. And take a drink. I
forgot to tell you to do that.
Oh, my bad. So they can take a drink and this, you know, and that's how they socialize. You know, they get together. But, you know, so when the players and the pimps get together, we take a blow.
Right.
We didn't take a drink. We take a blow and then take a drink. Okay, so that's what, and that led to an addiction. Before I know it, so now I need this to keep me, and then we trick ourselves mentally. Okay, if I take a blow, I can stay up longer and I can get more money. Okay, so it's a trick. So you trick.
You stay up longer so you can get more money, so that you could pay for more blows, so that you could stay up longer.
Exactly. It was you was tricked into the lifestyle. I mean, into the addiction because of the lifestyle that we were living.
Yeah, once it's part of a routine, nobody questions it.
No.
Other people are doing it,
and now it's an addiction.
Yeah.
Okay, and so that leads to more crime because I need more money now to support my lifestyle, and that leads to in and out of penitentiary for everything. Okay.
That's also the altered state of being high on coke. You know, like, you tend to think that you're invincible and nobody could get you and nothing can happen. And
the worst thing about being high on drugs is you have no fears.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Like, you're disconnected from that voice, that gut feeling that says, maybe not.
Right.
Yes.
Maybe we don't do this. It's like, did you hear it? Did you feel something? No, I feel anything. Too numb. All right, let's go.
Yeah, it was like, no, we don't have a choice. You got to get this money.
Yeah.
You don't have a choice. You got to get that money because we got to pay the bills. We got to do this. We got to maintain our image, our lifestyle. So we didn't have a choice.
And everybody's doing it.
And so the people that I was associating with was doing it. Okay, so that's why in recovery we change people, places, and things.
Yes.
Okay, get away from all that.
Yes.
Okay, I don't care if they're your brothers, your family, whatever. No, I can't mess with you no more because you're not moving in the same direction as me, and you holding me back, and you crippling my recovery.
Yeah, because they co-sign the part of us we're wanting to leave behind.
Yes, they want to come on back, man. Are you going to continue doing this? No, I'm not. I decided enough is enough. Okay.
So you were in recovery, but you weren't in recovery yet.
I was not.
And so, what do you think when? Because I mean, you relapsed, right?
Yes.
I mean, but whether you call that a relapse or not, because you weren't really fully in recovery, for your own words before the show, but you feel like maybe those were some of the things you didn't do, completely change people, places, and things. Like, what is it that you didn't do that you feel like made a difference that you did do when you decided to get clean?
What I did or didn't do is the recovery. I was not doing it. And if you don't do the recovery, you're not going to recover. It's a working process. You don't get no more out of it than when you put into it. And if you don't do it, you will go back.
And honestly, recovery is about being willing to be wrong, being willing to look at ourselves, being willing to right wrongs, being willing to see what kind of thinking and behaviors we're creating the same life over and over again, and having and clearing up that channel and turning things over to a higher power. Like, if we don't really want it, we don't do it. And if we don't do it, we don't really get it.
And my thing was, I was trying to do it my way.
Yeah.
Because they talk about character defects and shortcomings, and a lot of my character defects, I liked it. I wanted to hold on to them. I like Hollywood D.
We have to bottom from each of those.
I didn't want to change some of the things in my life, but I realized I had to, and that led to my relapse. Okay, so now I focus on the program. I focus on the recovery.
Yeah.
Recovery. God first, then recovery. God delivered me from my addiction. I give it all to Him. Everything good in my life, I give it to God.
So how long was your relapse then? Because you guys were together for like 3 years before he got sober, or no 5 years.
When we met, he was working. He was in recovery when we met.
Right.
Okay.
We're together for a couple years. He relapses.
That must have been hard, right?
Yes, and
it was hard, but it wasn't long and drawn out or anything. Like, he went out, looked around, came right back. I never saw anything like, literally never experienced anything like that.
And you know what? My thing is that
He's like, it's not out there.
Yeah,
it's not.
You know what?
I had
it's
something
not better out there.
It killed me though.
In my addiction, you self-centered and selfish.
Yeah.
I didn't care about nobody but me.
Yeah.
Once I met my wife, I had someone that I cared about and I worried about, and I was willing to do for her more than I was willing to do for myself.
Beautiful.
And so, therefore, experiencing what we had, like I tell people, I never experienced the meaning of two until I met her.
Aww.
You know, and so my first relapse was one day. Okay, went to the wrong thing before I know it, and then the next time was 3 years ago. I relapsed, but it was one day, and the next was 2 days, and I came right home and I say I relapsed. Okay, and so we got back on the
thought process.
Yeah, that was
thought
crazy.
process,
That was
and
so
she
crazy.
said, this was the best thing. No, I came home and I went in the safe.
Sometimes we need a wake up.
I came home and I went in the safe. She said, "Are you all right?" "No, I need to get some money." She said, "If you come back to get some more money, we're gonna fight. You're not gonna get no more money.
All right.
Just be done." And I came and I was done. Okay, and that was 3 years ago. And so in the 3 years, and then I hear a lot of people say,
"That's beautiful. That's beautiful that she wasn't like."
She said, "I'm not
around.
going
I was
nowhere."
terrified.
Yeah.
Let's just be clear. I was terrified because
here's the new love of your life,
and he can be scary in that mood.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh.
And you came
I
from
can't-
a relationship with
right.
somebody like.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
there's
like, I
no
can't
way
let
that
him do
this love that you just now got is going to get destroyed. Like, that must have that must have brought some stuff
And I
up
told him before he walked out, I said, I know you're in there.
Yes.
I know you're in there.
And I brought myself back home to my wife, and I got into my recovery, and I stayed there. And then I stopped putting pressure on myself to do 1,000 meetings and all that, because now I realize that I'm not just counting clean time. I'm not just counting clean time. I'm making my clean time count.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So in the past 3 years since my last relapse, 4 houses. God is fantastic. Long as I do His will and do what He want me to do, He give me a life of abundance. Okay, so I have 3. This third house is opening up July 1st. It's ready to go. We just waiting on them to put the carpet down.
We'll get to that after our break.
Okay.
Please remember that it's break time. The opinions expressed here are strictly those of the people who gave them and do not represent any 12-step program or should replace your own intuition or professional medical advice. See you in a bit. The Meeting Space is a facility with over 100 weekly recovery meetings for addiction from alcohol, drugs, sex, food, gambling, codependency, and PTSD. When someone is scared to go to their first meeting, we walk them through the process, ask them and answer questions to assuage their concerns. Many are court-ordered to attend, and we provide free court papers and teach them the process. Our glass-enclosed, soundproof children's playroom enables parents to be in a meeting while watching their children. We have healing workshops, craft fairs, and special authors who come to teach and sit with our fellowships. During COVID, we were declared an essential business by the County Commissioner's Office. We were kept open so that we can continue our daily work with traumatized chronic relapsers and those who would have used alcohol or drugs in isolation. Local businesses rent our space as well to financially help with this mission, and they get to have a great location for their business meeting or training. The recovery store in the center of our facility provides literature, clothing, medallions, and custom gifts to encourage, aid in, and celebrate a person's recovery from alcohol, drugs, PTSD, or unhealthy behaviors. Both the recovery store and the meeting space are open every day, including holidays. Saving lives, educating the community, reducing social stigma, providing a safe place for people to heal. Our nonprofit is supported entirely by donations by people like you who want everyone to have a place to go to heal. Welcome back to the Real Recovery Show. Remember, you can watch us on Facebook, YouTube, and on Amazon Fire TV. And the Real Recovery Show has its own YouTube channel too now. You can listen to us on PHLV Radio app. You can get our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeart Radio. And before the break, we were talking about, a lot of things. But one of the things we want to continue right now talking about is how they met. Because, having somebody to walk this life with in recovery, it's hard. It's hard when you're in a relationship with somebody that doesn't get, why you need to be, clean and sober off of drugs and alcohol. It's hard to walk with somebody if they don't understand, that you're going to have some stuff to come up to heal and things you're going to walk through, and how to apply principles and tools and have a support system, and so, having two people meet in recovery and fall in love and want to have a really amazing life, that's super powerful. So it's my understanding that there was a recovery event that you were at, and you're just minding your own business at, and in walks you.
And
swinging around going, I'm here.
Not so much as I came over there and I was introduced, and I used to hear her sharing, and I used to be amazed at her journey. And especially the part, she always leave out the good part, how she was going through the treatment, and she had the bachelor's degree, then the master's degree, and she had to maintain a B average the whole time through the master's degree, or they would have kicked her out, and I was like, wow, this is a transformation. Yeah. And if she can go from there to here, that's what's inspired me to keep on building and being a better person. She made me want to be a better man.
Oh, I love that.
And so I had kind of made my mind up. I got to have this woman. So now I'm still street mentality. I'm a player. So I'm full court press on her. Full court press like the Lakers, okay? Yeah. And I'm like, Miss D, can I take you to dinner or something? She said, no, I'm just working on myself. And I said, okay, let the games begin. Here we go. Okay. So,
like he's thinking you're playing hard to get, and you're playing not to get.
She's just not to get. She's not ready because she's had bad relationships, and I think she was 3 years celibate.
4.
And I said her picker was messed up.
That's true.
Her picker was messed up.
Oh, but now not if she goes with you.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so it went from there, and this went on from 6 to 9 months, 6 months, 6 months, and then so her birth 2000. She was celebrating 13 years, and then so she asked one of the guys, "Go ask the wife, would he like to come to breakfast with us?" That's a routine. That's what we do. We go to breakfast when somebody celebrate. Yeah. And I say, so I got a friend of mine with me, and I say, "Hey, I got her." And we went to breakfast, and she was still playing hard to get. So we having breakfast. It's like 25 of us up in this place eating, and so she came over there. I said, "Well, hey, look here, congratulations. Is it possible I can take you to dinner? I'm going to dinner with my kids today after this breakfast." I said, "Okay. Well, then can I give my number and you call me?" And she said, "No, I don't take men's number. But you can call me."
Such a good girl.
Listen here. Listen, not just for Lisa. But you can call me. Okay, give me the number. Okay, so I say, okay. So again, I tell Scotty, let the games begin. So she give me her number, and she go right 2 steps over and sit down, and I call her right then.
It was her birthday. She was open-minded.
And I called her right then. Hey, check this out. She told her daughter, "Hey, he's calling me already." And then so she stood me up on the first date. And the next date, we just been together ever since. Yeah. Which was like 2 days later.
Yeah.
And we've been together ever since. And match made in
I
heaven.
love that you were attracted to the things that really matter.
Oh, yes.
I love that.
The recovery part.
It's more than the recovery. Like
the transformation.
Her desire to become everything she wasn't, like to really rise up like that phoenix. Her desire to do that's attractive.
And to help
people.
See
a strong woman, strong spirit,
she is.
Willing to overcome her own programming, to step out of all of that. Yes. Shed that snake skin and just be able to have a whole different life. It takes a lot to do that kind of transformation.
And that's a really vulnerable time, too.
Yeah.
Especially if a person has been celibate or dormant for 4 years. It's
in a cryogenic sexual state.
And then you are now meeting someone who is super attractive, like very like all the things. And it's like, man, this is what I'm bringing to the table. And I basically just had to say, look, this is what I've got to offer, you know what I mean? And it's, it could get better, but I promise it won't get any worse. And and I just really, because I had said to myself in that 4 years prior to meeting him, listen, the next time I meet somebody, when I'm ready, I'm just going to tell him, I'm not going to suck my stomach in and almost pass out. Right. I'm going to eat the cake.
Yes.
You're
going to be real. You're going to be a real
exactly.
woman.
And I, because that was something that I would hide from for those 4 years that I met him. And I was like, there's just no way I'm undressing in front of somebody. I'm too tired. I'm not going to do it.
And then Lisa,
that's the thing that happens when you just get to a place where you're like, you know what? I had that experience recently where I started dating somebody, and it was so amazing. And then I started getting that old Lisa coming back, like, I have to make sure that I never have like any emotions or show like that I have stuff to heal because this person's like more of a normie,
right?
And so I'm starting to make myself anxious, and then I pray and I'm like, God, tell me, do you want me to be in this relationship or not? And I get this and then I go, okay, well, tell me, what is it I'm supposed to see? And I felt God tell me, I just want you to make sure that no matter what, you put me first, and I want you to be real. And if this doesn't fit you putting me first and you being real, then it doesn't belong to you. Right. And so I ended up going, and I had that conversation with him, and I said, this is me. That I need to do this for so many reasons. This is more important than anything I could have with you. Yep. And he got it.
Nice.
And so I love that, because if we stand up for what really we need, that to me is owning our recovery. Definitely. That's beautiful. And what kind of a relationship could we have if we're back to being fake? If we're back to pulling our proverbial stomach in and believing that we need to look a certain way, be a certain way for somebody to love us. And then what happens is we never really truly believe that they love us. How could we believe that they love us? We think we have to be somebody else for them to love.
Right.
To be real, to know he's attracted to your spirit, your story.
Yes.
Like your drive, your inspiration, you're beautiful. You know, and that's way more than what we look like physically, right? And that is the best. So kudos for you. You scored some serious points there.
This is the proposal. So that was the, this is what made it all so special. So I'm fully listening because I don't want to say the wrong things. I don't want to block myself from having a chance at this beautiful woman. So I'm listening. I've been listening at her for 6 months tell her story and about all the bad relationships and how she was treated and all that. And I'm listening and I'll say, okay, I'm taking notes. I'm not going to do none of that stupid stuff, you know. And so now I'm listening. So we finally get on our second date after she stood me up. And so we sitting up in here and I was like, you know, Dee, I hear all the things and all the guys that you had been with. And I said, I just want you to give yourself a chance. You know, don't let your past bad experiences interfere with the rest of your life's happiness. You still have a full life ahead of you. Okay. It's the perfect guy out there for you. Yeah,
it might actually be closer than you know.
And then so I said, you know, what I really think it is, your picker is messed up.
Yeah.
And I said, and you're never going to choose to be with another guy. You're going to keep being by yourself.
Yep.
And I said, well, check this out. I said, so let me help you out here. I say, from this point on, you belong to me. Do you have a problem with that? She said, no. We've been together ever since.
I love it. Isn't
that funny? But it's true. That is a true story.
Honest to God.
I couldn't believe it.
Because I had made my mind up. I'm having this woman. We have never had, I mean, we have periods of adjustments.
Yeah, of course.
But we don't, no physical, you know, and we talk about it, you know, we argue, you know, nobody's perfect.
Right.
And, but, you know, I know that me and this woman is going to build generational wealth for our grandkids and for people in recovery.
Yeah.
And this is our mission. This is my divine assignment from God.
Yeah.
Okay. To be of maximum service to recovery.
So now you're diving into your recovery. You are like truly like committing to everything to make sure you don't lose the thing that you wanted so badly, this relationship, your new life, everything. And in that decision to be clean, you say, how did the houses start? How did this come to you to start one?
Okay, the way the houses start is I was working in recovery through her. Where?
Yeah.
American Addiction Center.
Okay.
And then Vogue Recovery Center.
Oh, awesome.
She knew all the people, so they gave me a job. I mean, you know, and then so I'm working there, and so it was like they heard my story at one of the places, and then they would say, would you like to come share at an American Addiction Center?
Okay.
I came, shared, told them the good, the bad, and the ugly, gave it to them grimy, because my relationship was grimy. I mean, my addiction was grimy. You know, it wasn't nice and sweet. It was dragging through the muddy water, you know? And I gave it to them, and then when I finished, the people was like, hey, Dwight, can we take your number? Would you like to talk to us? Would you like to be our spiritual advisor and stuff like that? And I was like, wow. Then they asked me to come back. And it was New Year's Day.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, no, I'm not going on. I'm going to my mother's house and have dinner with my mother on New Year's. That's a regular. We don't take breaks in recovery, they told me.
Yep.
So I went, and all the big wigs was there, and they offered me a job. And I was like, what do I have to do? They said, oh, we'll teach you. They was like, do you know how to work a computer? I said, yeah, for Facebook and porn. And they said, we'll teach you.
That's awesome.
And
That's
I've been
God.
working. Then I decided, you know what? After running sober living houses for these companies, I said, no, I can do this myself.
Oh,
and so I
see.
started. You know, I'm a veteran. I get a pension. Well, I get a check from the VA. I'm 100%, and so I started saving my money. And me and my wife, we started putting money away for our future. We had a non-negotiable savings plan. Everything comes in, this much goes into savings toward the future vision. Okay, and so then I was still working at Vogue Recovery Center, running the sober living houses, and I opened up my first house, bought it with the VA loan, and I swimming pool, jacuzzi,
Yeah, we
workout
actually
area.
purchased that house with the intention for it to be a sober living house. It's different when you're house shopping. It's like, but when you're house shopping for your first house that you ever bought, it's like, oh, I love this house. And we got to spend one weekend in it, and then we got our very first
Was it a weekend
resident.
or a night?
We got to spend the night, and then the guy came the next day, and I was like, oh, man, I can't sleep here anymore. Like, we had a slumber party, but, like, the crazy part is, like, so, yeah, am I an owner? Yeah, I'm an owner, but, like, he runs those houses like he knows men need it to be run. I cannot speak to a man and hit him where he needs to be hit. I could probably make him feel a different way about things, but what he needs
is another man.
Is from him say, okay, so you get a government pension or you get an SSI check, but you're going to work here. This house you're going to work. It's what's required. You don't have to choose this house, but the first house comes, and then he's like, second house, third house, fourth house, fifth house. I'm like, whoa, hold up, wait a minute. Like, because I'm 54, he's 12 years older than me, and I'm thinking to myself, man, are we ever going to be able to be together? Like, are we, you know what I mean? Right. But then I understood it's bigger than that. He's got a special magic that God gave him, and I have a special magic that God gave me. We do things together, and we do things separately.
Yep.
I have no authority over the house except for the guys probably want to run and tell Mama D on Dwight when he's being me or what, situation. But I have no authority in that way. I'm behind the scenes. I run the books.
Yes.
I pay the bills.
Yes.
I do all the things.
Teamwork.
And then he goes and does all of the hard stuff, like, how come you're not home on time? Like, what's going on with you? I haven't seen you for a couple days. Something must be wrong. He's like in there with the people.
Because he's been been where everybody who comes to your house has been.
Yes.
Right.
And there's something so powerful when somebody goes, you get me, because you've been there too. That's one of the things I love about Recovery Period is that not everybody will get everybody. I mean, sure, we have this camaraderie around the level of like alcohol and drugs, but the way we did what we did and where and the circles we were in, there are people that we will meet, and those of us who've had really low bottoms, like me, I've had a really low bottom. Man, there's nothing anybody could tell me.
Right.
Nothing.
Yes.
They will never feel judgment from me. It's impossible.
Right.
I get it. I get it because I also get the why. Right. So that's so powerful. It's good to know too. I love that you said that that addiction doesn't take a break, recovery doesn't take a break, because that's why the meeting space is open 7 days a week.
Oh, right. Yes.
And so is the recovery store, because the recovery store manages the meeting space. And I've had my employees go, how come we're not ever closed like the store? And I was just like, well, I go in and I'll work, because people need to be able to have a place to go anyway, and they're going to go to the meeting space, and so it's whatever. But can't we just leave it alone and let it run itself? I'm like, have you seen what happens sometimes? No, we cannot. But that's so that's powerful, and so and I love that tapping into the mission. Like, everybody has a purpose, and it's one thing to want to save your life, to want to be a better person, to want to be a better mom or a better dad, to be a whatever, a better worker or whatever. But there's another thing in that process of awakening to tap into, a deeper purpose that makes life way more. And like you said, we had such finite thinking. We had such limited ideas of what we were capable of, what we were worth.
What our dreams were.
Right.
Like when you could dream the impossible dream, it was so little.
Oh my! If I only had what I dreamed before I got into recovery, if I only got that, like.
I'm so overpaid, it's unbelievable. But I'm grateful for every single bit of it, and this amount of years, does that equal less amount of struggle? No, different struggle. Different struggle.
The onion. More will come up. But you know what?
Absolutely.
They're like growing pains too. Like, it becomes like the only reason why I have half the stresses that I walk through today is because I get to be there to be able to experience that. And it's like, okay. So you wrote a book.
Yeah, a couple, as a matter of fact.
Tell us about it.
So when I had turned 50, I'm 54 now. When I turned 52, like, something was inside me and it just wanted to get out. And it wasn't like, a sad, sad tale or anything. It was just like, let me talk about some things that I have learned about myself. Maybe some other people could benefit from this. And it was really just, me looking at the world around me and the people that I share it with and, saying, don't do that. You know what I mean? Like, quit being late.
Right.
Like, when you're late, you are telling people you don't care about their time.
Yeah.
Be careful what you call yourself.
Yeah.
You want to get a license plate that says juicy fruit, but are you really juicy fruit? I mean, are you going to pick your kids up in the PTA line with juicy fruit? So it really just became about the things that I learned about myself.
Ahas.
Right. And so I started writing and I knew I was done when I was done. God said, you're done. I happened to be done on chapter 52. The book is called Chapter 52.
Interesting.
And then I a couple years later felt an independence about myself. Not anything really holding me back, but it's like we talked about earlier, how many people have I been in my whole entire life? So then I wrote the 1 millionth try. And that really is kind of like it's kind of like a motto to I was this and then I was that. That didn't work. So I took a little bit of this and I mixed it with a little bit of that. By the time I'm done, I'm a freaking casserole. You know what I mean? I've mixed so many things together that literally, when my husband, asked me out for a date, when I really said I'm working on myself, what I meant to say is I'm afraid to spill any of that on you. You're not going to I promise you won't like me. If I show you who I really am, there's no way you could like me. Because I'm really messed up.
Yeah.
So that happened, and I talk about things in there respectfully. My daughters might read it someday, so there are some things that will just be left to imagination, but I was as honest as I possibly could be. And when I was done writing that, I was like, I'm done.
I feel like you wrote the book you would have loved to read.
Yeah. And isn't it funny, because if I read a chapter from it now, I don't remember that I wrote that, so I know it was written by Spirit.
Oh my God, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll write notes or you write your ahas down, and then later you come across a piece of paper and you're like, that's my handwriting.
I know. And my husband does this weird thing where he will say like how amazing I am, and then I'll doubt that, and so it's like a force, and I'm like, you're only saying that because you're my husband,
No.
But at the same time, it's like, okay, maybe I needed that. So like the whole combination of the two of us separately but together for a reason, not the reason you might think though, but independently of each other. Like, he needed a me and I needed a him. And all these guys that are staying sober, they needed a him and an us. And that first house that we bought and we gave to them, they needed that. And it's just way bigger. Yeah. It's way bigger than that.
Effect.
Yes.
And if people just knew how magic they were, they just could be just...
So there's something so profound about how we shine the light. We shine the light so that people can see the light within them, so that we could see it reflected back to us, so we could see our own beauty.
Interesting.
And so you do that, you're able to do that, you're able to see that in other people, and you're so passionate about it. And I feel like one of the reasons why is because God's wanting you to know.
Yes.
And sometimes we teach what we most need to learn. And we love, and just even letting him love you where you don't feel lovable is an act of self-love.
Yeah, that is a tough one.
Yeah. Oh God.
That
yeah.
is...
I mean, let me tell you, like you and I have a lot in common, because I also had a lot of ideas about who I thought I was. I had 2 layers to my false self. I had the one I want you to see, because I don't want you to see the other one.
Yeah.
And I, for a long time, believed that those were the only layers I had.
Yeah.
I didn't even fathom that there was yet another one, that who I really am. Who I really am is not either of those things.
And I was just so sick of doing things that I didn't even want to do. Yeah. It's like I don't even like doing that. It wasn't fun
anymore.
It
wasn't fun anymore.
Trying to be on is exhausting.
Oh, it's terrible.
Life is so rewarding when you're in recovery,
Yeah.
And are we running out of time?
No, you're good.
And
you have plenty of time to share.
So let me get this out here.
Okay, go ahead, Mr.
Hanzy. You got the microphone.
Tell the people.
So my wife here is such an amazing woman. And then I heard you say about a minister.
Yeah.
Oh, ordained, yeah.
She has her office. She goes in there, and I know not to. Oh, can we come in there? Me and the dog be like, hey. And I have my man cave, so we go to our, know. And so she goes in there, and I wrote a book. When did she do that? And then I'm what you call it, the minister?
Yeah, I'm ordained minister.
She's an ordained minister now. So now she marries people. I said, when did you do this? You know,
It's
I'm
just
so
things
busy.
I think of, you know, and
It's things
I'm
she
so
feels
busy,
moved to do. Yeah.
Working on the company and managing the houses and growing, and then she plays her part down. She does a lot. She helps me understand things and the education part, you know. And so the first Hanzy house the structure was that you have to get a job, get a spiritual advisor, do the work, okay, do chores around the house, okay, and that was it, okay. And the second one, I was not letting people with SSI in there because I can't work. Then we sit down and talk, and she said, you know what, we can't turn them people away. We need to help all of God's children. So the second house was for SSI people and people with limited incomes, veterans. Who has
structured income,
structured income. So we put that house together. You don't have to work. You just have to do the recovery.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, Hanzy House 3, July 1st, this is the one. It's the second chance house.
yeah.
Yes.
For everyone that needs a second chance, veterans, okay? If you need to get your GED, if you want to go to school and get a trade, talk to Miss Hands. She can get you a job.
Yeah.
She can get you in trade school. We're giving everybody, I got a second chance. I have 2 hip replacements. God gave me a second chance, okay? He gave me a second chance at life with this wonderful woman here.
And recovery.
And recovery. God delivered me from my addiction. And so for the last 3 years, my last relapse was 3 years ago. And I decided, you know what? I'm not just going to count my clean time. I'm going to make my clean time count. So I've opened up 3 houses in 3 years.
That's right.
Okay, in 3 years, okay? That first house, we don't even have a swimming pool and jacuzzi in the house that we live in.
I know.
We get this house over here for these guys.
I love that.
And I go over there and I be like, hey, you got to work out there. You got to swim
The
pool.
first thing I always ask when we go to Hanzy House 1 is, has anybody gone swimming today? Because I'll be damned if they're not going to swim in that pool. To half $1 million.
And then I say, and then I go in and I have my meetings and I get on them like I'm a drill sergeant.
Yeah.
Check this out, bro. You're gonna take care of this house. You're gonna keep it clean. I'm from that. I want to smell bleach and pine soil when I come up in here. So
they like put some in a spray bottle.
I
And spray
know.
it, and they go. He's coming. He just pulled up. Just spray a little bit.
But we have to teach them how to clean up because they came from the streets and everything, and they don't know. So we have to. Okay, your chore is going to be bathroom. Your chore is going to be kitchen. Your chore is going to be.
They have to learn how to live in a more symbiotic way.
And compromise because you live in a house
without anybody telling them what to do all the time.
A bunch of other people with different personalities.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have to learn and learn how to compromise. It's just not about you.
Right.
Let that go. Let go to
Do you
self-centeredness.
do drug testing?
Yes, we just now. Oh, last
Tell her the percentage has been.
Saturday is. I have at the first Hanzy house. We have a meeting at 8:00. Okay, it's discuss house issues like I don't get along with my roommate. He's stinking. He snores too much. Okay, we got to go through all that. Okay, so then prior to that we have deep scrub, what we do the spring cleaning. Okay, and then so I said, okay, everybody will get tested today. So I tested 8 people.
Do they know it's always on the same day?
No,
or?
it's random.
Good. Yeah.
So I tested. I tested 8 people at the Hanzy house one and 11 at the other house. Everybody was clean. That's a victory for recovery.
Yeah.
You know,
I was so happy when he called and told me. I was like,
that's just so powerful. I mean, you guys are you're a force, and I could feel it. That's why I wanted to interview you. Like, without even having a lot of conversations with you yet, my intuition knew, like, that's it. Like, whatever's going on here, you could feel, it's like palpable what you guys are doing. And so we're going to close right now. So before we close, is there any one last thing, or how does somebody contact you about the houses?
Well, we advertised on Facebook and what else?
Hanzy House Sober Living LLC 702-619-2784, or they can go to DHanzy on Facebook. We're super out there.
Yeah.
There's no reason why someone couldn't find us.
And you can look at my Facebook friends
Yep,
too.
100%.
My Facebook page is D Hollywood. Okay, and the phone number is 702-619-2784.
Yep.
Come there if you need a second chance.
Yes.
I'm not giving you a second chance. God is giving you a second chance working through me. I don't take credit for his work, but I'm here for the people that need a second chance. You come over here, and I'm of maximum service to recovery people.
Yes.
Okay.
Beautiful. Thank you so
Lisa.
much.
Thank
This
you,
was
Lisa,
so
for having
powerful.
us.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us today on the Real Recovery Show.
Thank you so much, Johan. Salamat.
We'd like to give a special thanks to our sponsor and gracious host, PHLV Radio, here in Las Vegas. See you next week. Bye.